Good morning, everybody. It's Kula from RawStocks. We have another edition of our pre-market prep today. And today we're covering things like NVDA, China banning the chips, what's to expect with the actual price action, the S&P. We're going to have FOMC today. The Fed's interest rate decision is today. What to expect from that. And is Tesla actually going to hit back at 450 target? We're going to cover all that. Stay tuned with us as we get into it. So, quick shout out to our sponsors, Blackbox Stocks and GammaEdge. Without those guys, we would not be able to provide this to you guys every single day. A little tongue twisted today, but we're going to make it through it. Okay, so as you see on NVIDIA, it is a gap down here at 172 3/4. We're seeing it press down into this range. We've got a close underneath our daily 4. Now we're seeing a little bit of weakness. Is this something that I would expect to continue to get a downside move to? At this point, probably not. And we're going to cover the data on that, but just a quick little, cover in regards to that. I don't really foresee this thing just straight dropping. Of course, data can change, and we can look at the intraday changes and see how that impacts it. But as of right now, the data I'm seeing doesn't look like that. We'll get into it in just a second. What I wanted to do is bring over the calendar for today. You can see building permits, housing starts, all below expectations, all below previous month. So definitely a little bit of a hold up on home builders right here. And you can see that kind of just pumping the brakes here. But that all can change realistically with what we see happening today at 1 p.m. Central. That would be 2 p.m. that would be 2 p.m. Eastern time. You're going to see virtually at 1 o'clock. I'm going to speak in terms of Central Standard Time. At 1 o'clock, you're going to see the rate drop. Okay. And probably a couple minutes before that, maybe even just a minute before that 1 o'clock hour flips, you're going to see some volatility today. So as you are in positions, you need to understand there can be a massive move based on that coming out. And a lot of times what you see is some level of liquidity trying to be drawn, right? So it swipes out all the stops to the downside, to the upside. We've seen moves on that opening or that flip of the hour there. $1 to $2 on indexes. I mean, that can make, stocks themselves sometimes flip multiple dollars. So I need you to have an understanding of that as we get into around that 1 o'clock hour, that you should expect some high levels of volatility today. We're watching, seeing what's going on. We're going to cover the VIX in here just a little bit on what's to expect as well. But as that happens, you'll see JP come in and talk 30 minutes after that data is released, virtually their decision. He'll come on, he'll talk. He'll talk for roughly about an hour. And a lot of times you'll see big moves on the market. It'll flip from back to forth and then ultimately generally pick a direction. But with that being said, you have to kind of know that it can flip in a dime. It can flip in a dime. It just depends on what he says. You could see yesterday we came down, tested 6,600, virtually into our daily 4 here, and we're at a pivot point. So exactly what are we going to be doing? Is this something where we see a pullback? Is this something where we see an increase? Do we see consolidation around here? We're going to cover all that now on the data. Maybe, if I can get it to work. My computer is not playing nice today. Okay, so the S&P still remains call dominated here. 6,700 to the upside. tons of speculation to the upside, tons of support to the downside. You can see how net positive delta is here below. So virtually it means that all the dips are being bought right now. Until you start seeing that net delta shrink there, that's when you know that there's a potential change of sentiment on the market. Okay. We're seeing a call dominated weekly here. Oh, real quick, 6650. That is our full complex cap for today. Okay. That's the full complex cap. This is something that we need to be monitoring and understand that this is, you know, an overlay for the 0 day. Today, 6620 to 6590. This is about as big of a crush as you can see. That's kind of where we're at, right? Is this something that we can see break outside of this range? Sure. But as of right now, it kind of looks as if this is a potential bust move in regards to like people looking for large moves on the day. I would not say that's going to be the case. It looks more so bullish than anything because the volatility is not there. And we talked about this earlier in the week, how, you know, the expected move for the week was 1%. I mean, that's nothing, y'all. That is nothing. And when we could see that here, right here, the expected move, 1%, which is not a lot at all. This virtually just tells us that whatever it probably is probably going to get bought up as of right now. Now, of course, dealers are hedged in certain positions, like we just saw on our range. If it breaks outside this range, it can force them to start selling off and, you know, increase the speed there. So we're looking at 6620 to 6590 today. Your positive transitional area is here at 6610. You can see we're right around this right around yesterday's close. We're at 6607 right here. You can see it. That puts us right in this range. So will we bust over the top of 6610 and start to get a push towards the overnight high, which was at 6614? Or will this thing kind of just push a little bit down, maybe float around this 6600, maybe even push down towards 6590, and just look to play this head and shoulders out? Because that's what this thing looks like, right? A head and shoulders. Is this going to play out, push us towards the bottom of the range where we get bought up, and that pushes us back up towards 6610? Or will we even make the full complex cap there, right? If we break outside of this range, I expect this to be targeted right here. Okay, 6650. I expect that to be targeted if we want to break outside that range. I personally do not see anything large happening today, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I just think this is going to be a bit of a VIX crush, and, you know, it's going to be a build-up. They're going to sell a lot of premium. I don't know what skew is. It's not super high right now. But I mean, it's high. It's high, but it's not crazy high. 150 plus is kind of where you look at it and say, oh, okay, this is getting out of hand. But that's kind of what we're looking at. So you're long at 65.90. Realistically, I have a hard time, you know, if we start pumping down here. If this is prior to the decision, I don't mind buying this up and see if it gets a quick return back towards 6,600. But virtually 6,600 is going to be our pivot post the release. If you see 6,600 broke down, I am not super thrilled about buying the dip down here. I would probably avoid that. Realistically, I'm more interested in a break over 6,610. For this thing to be long on and see if it wants to press up towards the top of our range at 6620. Which, I don't know. I have, okay, there it is. 6620 towards the top of the range. and then see if that thing wants to break through there and try to push its way up towards 66.50. Okay. Looking at NVIDIA here, you can see that we're towards the bottom of our range for the week, 172.5. Let's pull up the data real quick and kind of see what we're working with here. You're going to see that this is a little bit starting to become a little bit undecided in the area down here. Still remains super bullish with the net delta here. These are all people selling cash secured puts. As you can see, the net delta is super high. They have the gamma exposure into this range here, virtually meaning they're hedged down to this range. But you see, this is what this means. When you have this super strong net delta here, these are just people selling cash secured puts. And most of the time it's going to be bought up. You can see on the weekly here, this is where I say there's a little bit of indecisiveness. There are some overhead shorts here. There's some pressure here on NVIDIA itself. You'd watch if we break through 172. I imagine 170 will be tested. You can see it's a pretty strong on the weekly, but specifically on the full complex here, you can see that there's a strong support here with 7 million net delta here. I don't really expect it to really blow through 170, but watch for any type of sell under 172 to really be fast and drive it down towards that 170 mark. It does kind of make sense based on where we're at for that potentially to happen, maybe even a gap close near that 170.77 or into that high right there at virtually 171. But break through 172, you're definitely going to see some level of some level of selling down towards 170. If we hold 172.5, it's not a bad idea to go long, looking for this thing to retest 175. Okay, so over 172.5, I'm okay being long towards 175 and even potentially 180 if the market turns and starts heading up. I think that this is something that probably could happen, but I think it's more than likely for you to find some type of net positive type of play here. For a bounce off of 172.5 to retest this 175 to 174.5 range here. Now break through that. That's really good. That really gets exciting. I think you need to look at it. I know our range is here, but I think you need to look at the volume aspect of this and say that this is probably going to be a top out zone here. You're not going to get the full part of the range there based on volume here at 177.5. Tesla looks good. Tesla looks good overall, still remains bullish towards 450. You can see the full complex is now pushed up into 450, where we had a imbalance there where dealers are trying to press this down in towards that 400 level. 450 has now capsized that and has taken that over, and we're looking at 450 being the new upside target. You can see there's still some uncertainty. We talked about this range yesterday between 420 and I think it was like 410 yesterday, maybe it was 407. But virtually what you're looking at here is some indecisiveness here. So realistically, a break over 420 gives you a green light to try to chase that up towards 450. But as of right now, it's probably going to chop if it can't get over the top of 420. Okay. So based on what we saw with that data, that puts us somewhere like this. Okay. So we talked about this yesterday, a lot of indecisiveness under 420. You saw a lot of chop and just kind of suppression at that 420 level. Once it broke 420, it really tried to scream, but ultimately it rolled over and came back below this area. So you're at your negative shift here at, your negative shelf here at virtually 416. It's virtually where I have it. Looking to see this thing potentially drive down towards that 412.5 area, which is virtually yesterday's low. and we'll see if that's going to give you another buy towards pressing this up towards 420. If it does break below 412, I would imagine that 400 will be your target, okay? But as of right now, what we're seeing is 412's your, let's put it soft floor, okay? Soft floor. So that it is designated as the range, but I will tell you, if it does break outside of 412, watch 400 to be targeted. But right now, this is a buy the dip type of deal where you're buying this into potentially 400 and looking for this thing to retest into 420. Keep in mind, if it does start dropping below here and you're in a weekly contract, you're likely to get burned, okay? I would look more so outside the week for any type of, especially outside buying, if we start dropping below 412.5. At that point, you really got to kind of consider and say, hey, either you're looking to hedge towards the downside, or you're looking to escape at that position. But ultimately, does look bullish towards 450 as of right now. Just kind of depends on how we treat this 412.5 area today. I think watching that break over 420 will give you the confidence towards seeing this potentially push up towards 450. But if not, and we see a break below 412, we're probably going to create some relative range between 420 and 400 for a little bit, and then we'll see if it wants to break out of that range. Okay. Looking at VIX today, this is a massive VIX expiration here. There's suppression here. As you can see, we're put dominated, which virtually means it's suppressed here in towards this 16 level, right? This is where we're looking at. This is virtually where we're at on the VIX. If it does start to break over the top of 19, this is where things could get crazy, okay? But as of right now, very much put dominated, very much suppressed. We're seeing that most likely dealers are going to contain this between 19 and 16 here. It won't get super crazy for the rest of this week. You might end up seeing this thing move outside of this week, but there's a ton of contracts suppressing us this week, and this is why we really, in my opinion, haven't sold off. It would be outside this week that we'd see a particular move. That's my opinion. Even if we did see some type of relative move today on the downside, I think it would likely be recovered or stabilize into some level below. Okay, and that's probably at 6,500. If we do break down, it would stabilize there and get the VIX to drop and probably spike into the end of the week. All right. After that, you can see that there are some VIX calls looking to drive this up. Afterwards, after this week, you can see it's somewhat call dominated, nothing substantial here. Realistically, you need to probably look into the monthly here, and you can see how kind of things change into October, that it becomes very much call dominated, and there's a flip to this. There's still some suppression here, but there is that definite hedging outside of this week. So if you're thinking there's going to be a big move this week, or if you have a position for that, I wouldn't be so sure that. I would be looking outside of this week, because this means suppression. Okay. All right, guys. That's going to cover it for today. Hey, listen, if you're interested in joining us in getting access to our trades, our live commentary, our thoughts, us analyzing the data throughout the day, then come take a look at us at wap.com/rawstocks, or you can go to rawstocksllc.com, rawstocksllc.com. You can also click the link in my bio, my description, wherever you're seeing this. It gives you access to what we do every single day, all our trades, all of our analysts, and we have a pretty substantial win rate right now. It's been really, really nice. So anyways, come take a look at it. We have a $7 for $7 7-day trial, where you can come in, pay $7 to get full access for 7 days. That is on our WAP page. And yeah, Thanks for tuning in. Hey, until tomorrow, guys, we'll catch you later.